What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Albert from the Hobby Gunsmith, and today we will be going over how to correctly and properly install your scope and bore sight it on your rifle. So let's get into it. All right, so some of the tools that we're going to use to be able to do this job is going to be some Loctite. You want to go some blue thread locker just to secure those screws so they won't back out on you when they're under vibration from shooting at the range. You're going to need a good level set. You can either do the Wheeler level or go with this one. Wheeler makes a professional kit, which is basically leveled off the barrel and off the top of your turret. All right, you're going to need a collimator. So collimator is just going to help you get on paper. It's going to bore sight you at 100 yards just so that way you're close enough on paper so you can do the final tuning once you're out in the range. And you're going to need a good torque wrench set. You can either go with a fat wrench that brings all your bits, or you can go with a budget-friendly option that they offer on Amazon that does just the same amount of work. It's as great a quality for a lesser price tag. So these are the things you're going to need. And in our case, since we got a locking nut on the side of our scope rings, we're using a half-inch socket and adapter so we can use it on our torque wrench so we can torque it a spec, because our locking nuts have to be from 40 to 50 inch-pounds, so we get everything dialed in as factory specified. All right, guys, so before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to this company that sent us out some t-shirts. It's Grumpy GI Gear. You can find them at grumpygigear.com. Veteran owned and great company. Check them out if you're interested. Nice t-shirts. They got great novelty on it. Go check them out. So first things first, you're going to want to take out your level, because before you set anything on this rifle, you want to make sure your surface is level, your work surface. I don't know if you can pick that up. So once you know your work surface is level, then you know you can start working on the rest of your rifle, which in this case we want to level this guy on our vise. This guy as level as possible. Boom, boom. So we are level back here, level up front, so we got our reference point. So this one does bring a knob on the top. If you see this additional knob, this is basically to fine tune it. So if you got it off level for whatever reason, you can fine tune that bubble right to the center so it references off of your static level on the back on top of the Picatinny rail right now, because as soon as we take this guy off, we're gonna have to guide ourselves off of this one once we're mounting the scope. All right, so next thing we're gonna get is the bottom of our bases for the scope ring. Guys, the rings that I'm using for this project are the Wheeler rings. We did a open box review on it. If you guys check it out in our recently uploaded videos, if you're interested on specs and features on these rings, check out that video. What I like to do is I like to set my rings as far forward as I can. So this one I'll set up on the front slot, and then mid to front, I like it being flush. So we're gonna go there. Now, important thing, when you're setting up your rings, make sure you're pushing it far forward as you can. So that way when you take it to the range under recoil, it has a tendency of like pushing back. So if it's sitting against the actual Picatinny as far forward as it can go, you mitigate that, so you have lesser chances of it losing its zero and shifting. All right, so we're just gonna hand tighten this guy for now, and we'll torque it down to specs after, just to keep everything in place. I'm gonna do the front, and then my rear I'm gonna do about here, and then we'll adjust depending on what our scope will need. All right. Right about there. Remember, push forward so it bottoms out against our rail, and then just hand tighten this guy just to hold it in place while we set up our scope. All right, so again, verify we are level, which we are. This is the scope we're going to be mounting. It is the Vortex scope. We also did an open box review on this guy, so if you want to check that out, video is in our recent uploads as well. break down all the scope features and all its goodies that you get out the box. All right, so this guy, you know what, I'm gonna set this guy one more back just because I want a little bit more range now when I'm adjusting my distance. All right, to that slot right there. All right, push forward. So we're gonna set our guy there. All of our torque screws, we're gonna put a little dab of blue Loctite just to keep them in place when we're torquing it down. So I'll start putting a dab on each and then let them tack up a little bit before we torque them down. Little dab will do. Now we got our screws with some Loctite pre-added to it, so that way we're ready to go. You're gonna get your scope rings, the top ends, and you're gonna present them in place. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna hand tighten the screws just enough to secure it in place, but loose enough so you can be able to wiggle your scope back and forth so you can adjust it where you need it, because we got to level out that crosshair on our scope. So we're just gonna get our screws, hand tighten those guys in place, and then we can do our adjustments. Our scope is tight, but we can still manipulate it, go back and forth wherever we need it. So we're gonna set our level on the top, and we are going to rotate it to where it levels with our front reference bubble level, which would be about there. Make sure the front is level where we want it. That's center. That is center. So now we're good there. So factory specs or factory recommended torque specs for these rings are set to from 15 to 18 inch-pounds. So we're going to torque these guys down 15 to 18 inches, but as we're torquing them down, remember, you want to torque them in cross screw. You don't want to go down in a row and put uneven pressure. So we're going to go across in an X pattern and the centers, and we're going to make sure that our bubble level is staying on the center as we do so. All right, so we're going to get our fat wrench, and we're going to set this guy up to, let's say, from 15 to 18 pounds. Let's call it 17. All right. And that looks like it right there. And then we're going to get our corresponding bit that fits perfect. All right. And we're going to tighten these guys down to factory recommended specs while keeping everything level little by little, so nothing shifts on you. Very important that you keep everything level. So torque it down. So the good thing about these torque wrenches is that once you torque them down, you know that you're on spec because they give you like a clicking ratchet noise, and it's basically like a clutch in there that won't let it go past a certain amount of weight pressure on it and makes you slip off. So you don't over tighten your threads, eat them up, and then there goes your whole investment, because now you gotta replace the whole unit, the scope rings. All right, so once we're there, as you can tell, reference our 2 specs on tightening. All right, and now we're going to tighten our base rings nut down to 40 to 50 pounds. So we're going to crank this guy up to 45 just to be in the middle. All right, and we are set on those. So that is set. So next thing that we want to do is we're going to take off our bubble levels, and we want to use our collimator just to boresight it to 100 yards. So that way when we take it out to the range to do the final tuning, we know that we'll be hitting paper, which will be close enough to dial it in so we can get it spot on and see how tight of a group we can get on this rifle. because remember, we're going to do a complete series on tuning it up. We got a couple companies that are going to be working with us. We got Sharp Brothers that are going to be providing a chassis. We have VZ Grips that are providing the grips for the chassis. We have Timony Triggers, which will be providing the trigger system for the build, and a couple more companies that are going to be joining in. So this is going to be a build that I'm very curious about to see how much we can improve on an already great system. Scope mounted, remember, before you put away your torque wrench, always decompress the pressure. You don't want to store it with it on the poundage, because you will wear it out a lot quicker and it will not be precise at all. So before you store it, just unscrew it completely so there's no pressure or tension on the unit. So all the collimator really does is it gives you a target on the system, right? So when you put it on the end of the muzzle and you look through your scope picks up that target. Let's call it a virtual target, and that way you can basically simulate as if there was a target at 100 yards, and you're basically just lining up your scope to that imaginary target. Once you get out to the field, you'll be able to get it close on paper, close enough to where you could just do some final tweaks, save yourself on ammo, and save yourself some frustration from trying to get it on paper to begin with. We're going to use our arbor that fits the 30. You could tell on the collimator there's a flat spot, so that's your reference point when you set it into the tool. Put this end into our unit and we screw it to make it snug in there. All right. Now we can adjust back and forth wherever we need. Now we have our scope set up on our rifle. We have a collimator on our muzzle. And then now all we're looking for, YouTube, this is an empty rifle to begin with, so there's nothing in the chamber. But what we're looking for is on our collimator, we have our grid, our target grid, and we just want to move our turrets over dead center on that grid, so when we take it out to the range, we will be on paper. Because last thing we're trying to do is waste a bunch of ammo trying to get on paper and dial it in, when we can do this step at the shop, get it dialed in, and it's going to be a lot easier for us once we take it out to that range. So we're just going to do some quick adjustments just for elevation. Now when you can compare it to the prior video that it shows, once we put the collimator, the turrets still hadn't been shifted to center it up on our target. You can see now that we've shifted it, we're dead center on that target, we're leveled out, we're ready. So now we can actually take this rifle out to the range and dial it in. So on these follow-up videos, what we're going to do is we're going to take it out to the range. We're going to get our first impressions on the rifle, because we still haven't shot it as is, because I want to take it out, get a baseline, see how it groups out of the box before we start upgrading it with the chassis, the grips, the trigger, all that good stuff, to see how much we will improve by adding these aftermarket parts, or if it's just better leaving it as is out of the box. So we're going to get a baseline grouping and then compare it to, once we do all the upgrades, go back out to the range and see how much we improved on an already great system. So guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification so YouTube lets you know when we release new videos on our channel. As always, I'll leave links for the tools and equipment that we use on these videos down in the description box below. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.